exciting time of the year, especially when you get to have what has felt like a more normal cycle going back to June 1st when we were able to have recruits on campus. We had our summer camps that were even a bigger success than maybe years past. And we got the development piece with our current team. Jim Kramer, Coach Perkins, those people have done a tremendous job. Kelly Lehman and her staff, our academic people, through this whole process of getting us to this point today. And so I'd be remiss if I didn't tell them how much I appreciate all their work. Our seniors, our leaders going into the fall 21 have been excellent. We got a couple sixth-year guys that are on the team right now who are extremely invested in the product and in the culture and the daily environment that we're trying to create. But we have a ton of other young men that are doing some great things, not only on the football field, but in the locker room, in the meeting room, off campus, to make sure that we're going to put ourselves in a great situation leading into game number 1. Tomorrow will be practice number 7. We've had great weather. We've been able to be outside. We'll be outside as much as we can this fall due to the fact that in the spring we were forced to be inside. I want to be outside. We have more space. I think we practice better when we're outside. We'll utilize the dome when we have opportunities to, and when Guns N' Roses have moved completely out. We'll have access to it. But it's been good. It's been exciting. Our coaches are excited to be on the grass. Our players are. Our support people have done a tremendous job. Our administration to get us set up into this point right now. It's been a lot of fun. It's been something that I've appreciated through the course of the summer. This summer flew by, and I was just perfectly fine with that. Since May, I've been looking forward to the start of football season, fall 21. And it's here, and I've enjoyed every single minute of it up to this point. I'm going to go through a little bit, just hopefully maybe answer some questions before you guys ask. Offensively, some of the depth that we have, offensive line-wise, we have a number of guys back who played in the spring, who are going to give us some added depth. Excited about their development, the weight gain, the confidence that they've gained over the course of the summer has been immense. Wide receiver room. Whenever you can add guys like Zach Mathis and Phoenix Sproles back to the room, that's a shot in the arm. And then a couple guys that are jumping out to me, Bryce Lance, talented, long. It's funny, Bryce, when he came on his recruiting visit, measured in at 6'1.5", and I think we measured him in at 6'3.5". And so he's grown 2 inches since his recruiting process started. Big, long kid. Tyler Terhark from West Fargo. 210 pounds now. And now he's 210 pounds of confidence out there too. So really excited about what we're seeing out of him. At the running back position, I know I think there was a comment was made, we moved Mitch Cardis to running back. Anyone who follows Minnesota high school football knows back a few years ago, I want to say it might have been 2017 season. Mitch had about 1,000 yards rushing in the first 4 games of the season. Was probably on his way to being Mr. Football in the state of Minnesota, and then unfortunately had an ACL tear. It's taken him some time to bounce back. We moved him to linebacker. He's helped us on special teams immensely. He'll continue to help us on special teams, but he's added some great depth at the running back position, and he's probably a little more natural at that spot too. Barika Pinu, another young man from Cheyenne, great addition to our program, going to help us. Tamarick Williams has picked up and has really learned what we're doing in 6 days. Outstanding pass protection, critical piece, big back. You see his development just grow every day, his comfort level. And then at the tight end position, that may be the room that has the greatest depth, the tight end and the fullbacks. You talk about Hunter Lupke, Josh Babich, Noah Gindorf, Joe Stoffel, Travis Yankee. Those guys just continue to develop. They're outstanding players, great leaders. Lupke provides a number of skill sets that will allow us to use him in a number of different ways this fall, and look forward to seeing how we can take advantage of his athleticism. He's down about 12, 14 pounds from where he was in the spring, and that has only made him, I think, a greater weapon. And the athleticism is even coming out of him greater. On the defensive side, D-line got a lot of depth, and that's always good. Anyone who's come and watched us play, we're going to play 8 to 10 guys up front. Some names that have jumped out, the Mostarts, You can talk about Will, you can talk about Eli. They're both huge upsides and only scratching the surface of where they can be. Our senior depth, our leaders are back, and really, when you talk about Wagey and Pierce and Braden Thomas, Logan McCormick has probably been maybe one of the best leaders we've had this fall camp and in the offseason. Costner Chang, blue-collar kid that's just going to play extremely hard. Lane Tucker has done. Javier Derritt starting to show some explosiveness. Young guys, Jackson Dutenheffer from Mandan. This is where he's supposed to be. He fits in here. He was supposed to be a Bison, and really excited that he's here because he is going to have a huge upside for us. A sleeper, Cole Menz at defensive end, another West Fargo product. Doesn't say 2 words to you all day long, but he's got a motor. He can play, and I love the fact that he's a Bison. Linebacker position, something we got to continue to develop. Oscar Benson has shown outstanding improvement from the spring. Nick Kubitz, a young man from Dubuque. Logan Kopp, a true freshman, has seemed to pick up the scheme a little bit. Luke Wirtz continues to put himself in a situation where we got to find ways to play him. We used him as an example this morning in our team meeting, a young man who had a ton of athleticism when he got here, but didn't quite understand the communication piece that was necessary. And now you're out at practice. Luke Wirtz he looks like he's directing traffic, directing airplanes at O'Hare. He does such a good job of getting our guys in the right place. And so I used it as kind of evidence why you need to pay attention at practice. Embrace the process of practice, and you'll start to reap some of the benefits. In the secondary, Tutsi, Weber, Jones, all outstanding at the safety position. Julian Ladarchik has done a really nice job, even played some Sam linebacker for us at different times, trying, again, position flexibility allows you to have greater purpose for the Bison. Corners, Destin Talbert, JP, Courtney. Courtney, those of you remember, really good in late in the season last year, has picked up, very confident young man. We need to continue to work with Gerard Vines, and Marquise Siegel needs to continue to develop, but both have potential to play for us. Offensively, we're in a situation where we have to be more efficient in the red zone on 3rd down, and we can't turn the ball over like we did in the spring. And so those have been 3 areas that we're going to continue to push and to harp on to a point where our kids are probably exhausted. Defensively, really have 2 things. We have to tackle better. We weren't very good defensively in the spring. We have to tackle better. If we tackle better, we'll shore up a lot of our issues, and we have to find ways to create takeaways defensively, get the ball back to our offense. When our offense has the ball, we're able to have it for 35, 30-plus minutes, time of possession. The Bison tend to perform pretty well and have good expectations. So with that, I know that was a little bit long-winded. I will turn it over and for questions, guys.
Matt, when you were watching the clips from the spring about tackling, was there anything that stood out? Was there a common theme, and how do you fix it for the fall?
Well, I think just some of the fundamental elements that we try to instill, we try to teach. Again, I'm going to go back. Tackling is a fundamental. I don't believe that you're just born tacklers. I think that's an easy excuse. That's an easy way out and in a way to allow bad performance. So he wasn't born, you can learn how to be good tacklers. And so I think part of it, we had a lot of guys that were pressing at different times. It became stressful. And so we have gone back to the drawing board, trying to go back to really football 101, if you will, and try to teach our guys and make a really heavy emphasis on tackling, gang tackling, keeping the cup. I know that's kind of a term you've heard, but it's something philosophically in our program that matters. It's in special teams, even offensively, we've taught it to our guys this year, just because that's something we can hang our hat on, and it's proven to work for us over the years.
Talk about that list of guys you were mentioning, kind of what's it been like for you to see those guys pick it up to that next level that you've been seeing, like with out in camp so far?
Well, one of the things I challenged our guys with right when camp started it was 70 days since we had played. So it wasn't like a traditional year or traditional cycle where you wrap things up maybe mid-April and then you don't pick it back up until August. We went to almost mid-May. There was an extra 30 days of development. So it was my thought process that we should hit the ground a little bit farther ahead of maybe where we normally were. Besides our incoming freshmen, everyone had experienced football at NDSU. Now, we have 2 different classes that have never experienced fall camp. And so there has been some learning curves over 6 days. The term's overwhelming, more intense than I ever thought it would be, and we go for a long time. All right, have been 3 main comments I've heard from some of our younger kids. You have to love football to be successful here.
On your quarterbacks after a week?
I'm learning that they're both extremely competitive. I'm learning that they both have very positive skill sets that I think can help us win games. But as far as who's 1 and who's 2, no, we have A and we have 1. There is no leader of the clubhouse right now. They both have things that we need to work on, and it's way too early. Not a big enough sample size yet.
What does that position need to improve from the spring?
Well, I think efficiency with the football. Can't turn it over like we did in the spring. And there was a number of reasons. It's just not on the quarterback position. You go back to the spring, there's busted protections. There's fumbles. There's the gamut. But being efficient, I think we're a solid football team on first and second down. We have to become better on third down. And when we're in the red zone, we have to score touchdowns. We can't settle for field goals. And so those are the 2 areas of emphasis that we're really trying to push right now.
Sample size, but what have you seen from Quincy so far that you like?
He understands the offense. He can communicate in the huddle. I think our kids trust him when he's in there. We do a lot of, we have a lot of long play calls, and he seemed to transition very well with those. Has a big arm, can make plays, can make good decisions with the football. And so, I think as it gets more competitive and we get into more of these other situations, third down, red zone, coming out, 2 minutes, and we start to see those competitive situations, those are the times that I really want to see who can step up and elevate not only themselves, but the other 10 guys that are on the field with them.
With the way last year went with COVID, you've got, technically 5th-year juniors, you've got 6th-year seniors, you have a ton of experience. You mentioned Bryce Lance, but is there anyone else from the, I guess what you would call the actual class of 21 where they're going to help you this fall?
Not at this time. I don't think so. I say that in jest. The 4-game rule is back in effect, so I think we'll have a number of guys that help us in the 4-game. But I'm not going to. No, I don't. I think it's way too early, 6 days in, to talk about someone helping us for the long haul.
He was around 50% or below at Virginia Tech. Have you seen anything that he can be better than that?
I think everyone thinks we should be better in that. I think it all depends partly on the situation that they're in. I've gotten a breakdown of our quarterbacks and their production against zone coverage, against man coverage, against pressure, in 7-on-7. I mean, I think there's a lot of kind of a big rubric that we're trying to go through to identify. But I think, there's always things that we can continue to work on if it's fundamentally, if it's, our pre-snap and post-snap reads that can help us be more accurate. I think that's something that our offensive staff is working with them, and I know Coach Edberg is daily.
About your tight end room maybe having the most depth, but your running back room got a lot of experience in the spring, especially from guys like Dom Ganella. What do you like about them and what they can bring to the table this fall?
Well, volume is a key. When you talk about a line of scrimmage emphasis program or program that emphasizes it like we do, to have great depth at running back is critical. I can go back a couple years ago when all of a sudden guys like Bruce Anderson, Lance Dunn were banged up, and I don't know where we kind of had to look around like who's next. And I don't want to be in that situation. We don't want to be in that situation. We want to have guys who can help us win games, but also you look at that crop of kids in that running back room, highly competitive. All of them can catch the football, have the ability to line up in the slot, maybe give us more depth at the receiver position, but also a number of them played defense in high school, so they can help us on special teams. Athletic kids who can run the field. As a coach, you never can have enough of those kids, but really like how they've attacked. Kobe Johnson has gotten healthy, and you see another gear. Again, confidence. Dom Ganella, confidence in the offense. He's heard it all before. Mitch Cardis has added some depth. Jalen Bussey, was voted by our team to be on our leadership council, maybe one of the youngest players ever to be on that. Just tells you the impact he has, not only in the locker room, but on the practice field as well. TK, Barika, talented young man. So we feel like there's the right mix, but at the same time, there's only one football out there too. So you have to tread lightly with a group like that because they all want to have the ball.
Josh Hayes exits in the spring, and I would say the cornerback room probably didn't have the end of the season that they wanted. Can you speak about Destin and Jaden's development, and then the guys kind of pushing them? Maybe expand on that a little.
Yep. Destin Talbert. Destin needs to be challenged to finish plays. He's always in a good position, just can't come down with the football. Can't make that play. You saw one game a year ago, the UND game. He played about as well as he could. He finished on. He made a huge fourth down play for us. They were kind of entering the high red zone. We need more production like that out of him. Jaden Price continues. You see his confidence continue to grow. I think part of that is because his role on special teams. He knows he belongs. Both Courtney Eubanks, young, doesn't have a ton of reps, has the confidence that over the top. He feels like he can cover anyone, anytime, anywhere, any day. And I love it. I mean, he does have skin like a duck. He does not remember anything that happened the previous snap, right? Which could be good and bad at different times. But he has that mentality. Marquise Siegel has all the physical attributes. Just we need the game to slow down a little bit more. And Gerard is just, you can tell why he played 18 games at Eastern Michigan. He has tools. He's just trying to get his tools to fit into what we're doing defensively. He's never had to play 2 LOS like we do before. So every day is new for him, but he's going to help that depth in our room. And the fact that he does have some playing time, some starting time, I think will be huge as we move through the season.
Punter and long snapper so far. Those are two spots you have to replace.
Yeah, we've Caden Steindorf, young man who's a redshirt freshman or second-year player, has done a real nice job punting. And, Hunter Brosio, Mike Florentine have done a nice job with some of the snapping right now. That is always a concern. I've said it before, those positions you take for granted until you don't get the production out of them that you want. And so it's critical. Special teams were a huge part of us in the spring. They've always been big. We need these guys to be productive and to continue to develop over the next 3 weeks.
You would do both right now if you had to?
He would be at this moment right now.
Miller different now than he was last spring when you kind of got, as a true freshman, you kind of had to play?
Just his level of confidence. He's heard it all before, familiarity, not just going through the spring, but then having a normal summer of development. During the summer, we have captain's practices, I think 7 or 8 of them in July. He was probably at the forefront with the offense and making sure those operated, how they needed to. Making sure the expectations of the offense were met each day of those captain's practice, and having some access time with Coach Hedberg as well. Going back and watching some of the things that maybe you didn't do as well as you would have liked to. Well, that's where typically your greatest growth comes from, is being able to see those moments and hopefully fixing them.
Cordell, pretty darn established at the tackle positions. Can you speak to the battle on the interior of the offensive line?
I can. Right now, Gray, Jalen Sundell's done a nice job at center. Jake Kubis is back, fully healthy, had that hip impingement. And so I think it's day to day. I think anytime you have depth like that, you could probably anticipate we'll probably play more than 2 guards. Nash has been, a mainstay in our program for a year. But wouldn't it be great to not have to play Nash all 60 plays of a game, or vice versa for Gray, to be able to rotate a little bit, maybe play 7 or 8 guys in a game. At the tackle, Mason Miller continues to develop. Jake Rock continues to develop. We need to, of course, as coaches, we want to expedite and push that development as fast as we can, but they've done a nice job. Physically, they're where they need to be. Mason Miller's now a second-year player, and he's pushing 300 pounds. Coach Kramer and his staff have done a tremendous job with him and getting him in a position where he can compete physically at that spot.
How much did baseball help Ganella coming back?
I don't know. I haven't asked him that. I know I had a long conversation with his parents last night. I know it was a outstanding experience for him to see pitching in the upper 90s and to make contact with it, he told me was pretty special. He did tell me that every time he got on base, he was going to steal, regardless of the signs from the third base coach. So I liked his aggressiveness. I do know he is stronger in his lower body than when he left, and so I attribute that probably to his intrinsic motivation. I think when he was down there, it was baseball all afternoon, and it was in the weight room all morning. And so he used that time wisely. Not every kid would do that, being away from home, being away from your team. I'm sure there's a lot of distractions that could come out, but I think he saw it as, I'm still a Bison. I still have to get ready and get prepared for fall. And he's done a really good job. His explosiveness and just his just being comfortable with the play calls and the different schemes that we run from an offensive standpoint is evident in practice, or the first 6 days.
Way to play Dom and Tut and Dawson together.
Well, I'll probably get into some sub packages. There probably is. It depends on what we're seeing, what we're facing that week. But we did something extremely unique this fall camp in that we did not. In the past, our players played positions. Our three technique was our three technique. Our nose was our nose. This fall, to create a greater sense of depth, everyone played right and left. And so you might be the three technique one snap and the nose the next. You might be the strong safety 4 snaps in a row, and then now you're the free safety. And we tried to challenge a lot of our veteran, only on our veteran field we did that, but tried to create greater depth. And maybe it gives the coaches better insight on who's really good at the free safety, who's the best on the team, not who do we think, but who showed it to us. And so it's challenged our top 20 or so guys, because there's a lot of thinking going on. All of a sudden, you get traded across the field. I went from being the Will to the Sam on motion. Well, I have to think differently now. And so it's been good for us. Now, we've put that behind us. I say that because I think that flexibility that we tried to create will help us play those guys more, maybe not together, but just we can mix them a little bit more than maybe what we were comfortable in the spring.
Like Phoenix rolls back into the mix, what does that do for the others like Christian Watson, Jackson Lippy, and the sort?
Well, it gives us another weapon. It gives us an inside receiver that can, run some option routes, can make people miss. The leadership piece is critical, and I know he did a great job in the spring of trying to maintain that leadership, but when you can be a leader on the field too, based on your actions, your practice habits, I think that adds volume, especially for our younger kids when they see a guy who's coming back from injury and maybe being at even a higher level than when he left.
What do you think that will do for your younger quarterbacks like Cam or even Quincy if he takes snaps? What does that do for those guys that they have?
Having a guy like Phoenix, well, they know he's going to be in the right place at the right time. They know that the route's going to be run at the correct depth. He's going to get in and out of breaks. He's going to communicate with them. So, when we do want to adjust plays, having someone with some veteran leadership experience out there, I think will give them a sense of comfort.
How affected your guys' day-to-day, the way you recruit? How have you kind of approached NIL as a program in the summer and fall?
We tried to approach it head on. We had some conversations with our teams, more in the educational piece. These are the things you need to have considered. Very first question I asked, Ross, of our team was, how many of you think you're prepared for this? And of course, 18, 22-year-olds, everyone raised their hand. And I said, well, then I anticipate all of you have, an LLC created. You have a website created, and all of a sudden the hands started to go down. So, it was a learning. I got online, I told Phoenix that I bought, thephoenixsproles.com, for $19.99. And I said, I'll sell it to you for $1,000 now. Learning experience. Everyone's going to try to make money off of everybody. So just because there's all these opportunities, it doesn't mean that it's just all unicorns and rainbows all the time. And, we got to continue to educate. It hasn't been an issue right now. The best thing for us is we're in camp. And all our kids are worried about is practice, rehab, meals, and making sure we're prepared for the next day. And so it hasn't been an issue. I'd be naive if I were to say, just try to ignore it. We have to take advantage of it some way, somehow. I think every institution is probably going to be forced to do that. Being in a community the size of Fargo, with as passionate of fans and fan base that we have, I think at some point it probably will come up in recruiting, for someone. And, it doesn't mean every recruit, but there is potential probably.